Tanya, if you only had 1 minute to give music artists the best advice you could possibly give them, what would you say? Clock's ticking.
Diversify your income streams. That's just it. You never know when your next gig is going to come. You never know when the world is going to come crashing down like it did in 2020. You need to diversify your income and have as many different income streams as you possibly can, because that way, if one of them goes away, it's just a mild inconvenience and it's not life shattering. It doesn't leave you trying to get a job at the grocery store bagging groceries just so you can make rent. So
Right.
that's in 30 seconds, but really that's it.
You don't even need a minute. Before I let you introduce yourself, what kind of income streams do you think are generally like the most common or the best for artists typically from the artists that you've talked to and worked with?
Okay, so most artists that I've talked to, their income streams typically come from performances, also with royalties from recordings, and a number of them also teach music lessons. And you think, hey, that's 3 income streams. That's great. Well, you think maybe it is, but look back to 2020 when the world shut down. You don't have those performances anymore. People are afraid to leave their house, so you may or may not have students, and everybody's afraid to spend money because the economy is tanking. So are those royalties coming in? And that just hit them all. So you really need to make sure you have multiple income streams, multiple different income streams, and bonus points if some of those are passive income streams, meaning you do the work one time and you continue to profit on it over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. So give everyone a little introduction to who you are, what you do, and what you're all about.
Oh yeah, so my name is Tanya. I am a musician, a blogger, passive income and SEO specialist, and new YouTuber.
Welcome to the club.
I have a small growing channel, and I graduated with my doctorate in clarinet performance back in 2005. And when I graduated, there were 50 clarinet positions open, 50 university clarinet positions. I applied for all of them, and I made it to the final 2 in 2 of those positions. In both instances, they chose the candidate with more experience, which makes sense. I was fresh out of graduate school. Yeah. So I started building a private music studio, kind of not taking it super seriously. I was just biding my time till I got my university job. The next year, there were only 5 positions in the entire United States. So I ended up working at a bagel shop for minimum wage one summer just so that I could pay my bills. Possibly 2 of the roughest months of my life. I was at an all-time low.
Yeah.
But I realized something needed to change. Something needed to happen. So I started working all in on my music studio. I built a thriving private music studio. And then the area I teach in, we are allowed to actually go into the schools and teach music lessons. We pull students out of band class. And I think Tennessee and Texas are the only 2 states that I know of that allow that. Ironically, the 2 states I've lived in. And the school system very seriously considered pulling that program. And I freaked out. I had flashbacks to that bagel shop, and I didn't want to be there again. And I was like, okay, something has to happen. And I knew I had a website, and I knew I should be able to make money with it. So I took an SEO course, and everybody told me I would never make money with my music website. I needed a niche website. So that's what I did. I started my coffee blog. And it started making money. And I was like, well, I like coffee. I like writing. I'm good at it. I mean, 10 years of college, you got to be good at writing.
Yeah.
So the more I got into it, I was like, there's got to be a way to make this work for musicians. So I finally figured out the secret sauce, and I started that. I also landed my university position in the meantime, and found out that working as a full-time professor just really wasn't what I thought it was. So I quit. I do teach part-time still, but I do mostly music lessons, teaching part-time, and then I run my blogs and my coaching business. And then when COVID hit, I was one of the few musicians who actually got more work because I was already pretty digitally sound. I understood. Yeah. I had that down. So lots of parents needed stuff for their students to do, their children to do, because they were bored at home. So I actually added students during COVID while everybody else was freaking out. And I
Wow.
started a third blog because why not?
That's amazing. Yeah, the COVID thing's interesting because I through COVID's kind of when I started doubling down on YouTube and doing the started focusing on the marketing angle. So I've always been an online guy, so it was kind of natural for me. And I get a lot of clients who would come to me like, "Hey, we've been a mostly live band. We never really focused on the online thing, but now we can't do the live thing anymore. So what the hell do we do?" Um, and then now that it's been a few years, there's a lot of people I've talked to that they blew up in COVID, and now they almost wish we could have another global pandemic because things were way better for them during the pandemic because they were getting all these extra streams because everyone was online and doing stuff, and they never transitioned back to like a touring in person mentality. The people who did the best are the ones who fully exploited the online stuff during the pandemic, but then when the world reopened, they fully exploited their touring possibilities and other revenue opportunities. um, so it's good to, you know, it's good to not have your eggs in one basket, and even having like a career, like a even your professor job. It's like you never know when you're going to get laid off or whatever, right? So even for the non-entrepreneurs, uh, having one job can kind of be scary.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I would not, if I could give anybody in the world advice, it would be have an income stream other than your main job.
Yeah,
Because you're right. And you're seeing a lot of that with universities because sadly, the adjunct positions are taking over full time jobs because
yeah.
adjuncts are cheap labor. You don't have to give adjuncts benefits.
What are some of like the most important tips or advices or whatever you could give to someone who's like, what's this whole SEO thing you're talking about? Like, how can I get started and capitalizing on this?
Okay, well, first of all, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And in simple terms, it's how you get your website found on search engines when people are on Google or Bing or whatever engine they use doing searches. And for the longest time, it was very keyword driven and specifically competitor keyword driven. But all of that has changed. Google kind of went crazy last year. More Google updates than have ever happened before, and the rules changed. And that really actually favored musicians and creatives
Mm,
because it was no longer focusing in on these very specific keywords in order to rank and get found on Google and other search engines. Now, the way this works is you set up your website in a way that optimizes it to get found. And the easiest and fastest way to do that is through a blog. And I know blogging is kind of a dirty word. People think about blogs and they think of the blogs like 10 years ago where they were more like Dear Diary type post or those what
yeah.
I eat in a day post. And that's not what they are anymore. Blogs today are more so like articles that have useful information that either solve a problem or answer a question. And people go to the internet to find that. Um, AI is starting to take over Google too. If you've done any searches lately, the first thing you see is an
Yeah.
AI result. Well, that may or may not be accurate. And Google's the first to tell you. So you want to make sure that your blog, your website is ranking up at the top, answering questions, solving problems. And that's how you get people to you. So if you're a music teacher, maybe you teach voice lessons and you specialize in online voice lessons. Well, some questions that your potential clients might have is, are online voice lessons really as good as in-person voice lessons? How do
Mm,
I find a good online voice teacher? Well, you can write blog articles answering those questions. Then you can turn around, publish them, and include in them links to your own services. They
mm.
find you. Oh, this is what I look for. Oh, this person teaches those lessons. Okay, let me check that out. And that's a good way to use your blog to drive sales your way.
Yeah. So I'm guessing for like a producer, I mean, this is basically what I've done with my blog over the years as well. So I can tell everyone watching that it works. very well. So like, I basically every time I think I find some problem that a lot of people have, it's like go make a very very helpful article that answers their questions, solves their problems, so that you can rank high on Google. Because really, like as a content creator in like education specific niches, especially, um, you're kind of in the business of solving people's problems. So you need to find people's biggest problems, figure out how to solve them, and then make amazing content solving them in a super easy to consume way so that shit works. Now, what do you think if an artist is like, yeah, I'm not really a teacher, I'm not really a producer, I'm really just an artist or a vocalist or whatever. They're not selling like an education thing. Is there an angle where you can apply this SEO stuff to like a more traditional artist who doesn't have some of these side hustles, so to speak?
Absolutely. So, first of all, with the artist, what are you selling? Are you selling albums? Are you selling tickets? Are you getting patrons? How are you utilizing that?
Mm,
Then you go in, same thing, using a blog post. And it doesn't even have to be a long blog post anymore. Had you asked me this 6 months ago, I would tell you that blog post needed to be around 1,500 words. That's not the case anymore because Google is constantly changing. Like,
yeah,
literally, Google documents were leaked 2 days ago about some more changes coming up
yeah,
because I'm a big nerd and I know these things. So, use that blog to drive them there. So maybe you are releasing a new song and you want it streamed. Okay, so you write a blog post about the inspiration behind your song. You can hear it here. Then you take that blog post, you send it out to all your social media channels. They find it. Okay, so now they're on your website. And the documents Google just leaked imply that they're not just looking at who finds you in search. They're looking at people that are on your website.
mm,
So you write that little blog post. Okay, your fans are going to be interested in the story behind the song. They're going to read it. It's going to keep them on your site a little bit longer. That's going to boost you in the rankings. Then it's also linking to your streams so you can earn money that way. So through that social media post, you're now getting your website higher up in the search engines and you're earning money off of your streams. So this can totally be done by artists as
yeah.
well.
I wanted to kind of ask you, like, you went to college for music, specializing in clarinet as your instrument, and you play other instruments.
Yes.
Do you how do you feel about music college in general? Right, obviously, like they. I feel like music colleges, if any of you are listening, should probably teach people some business advice for sure. But usually, when people ask me, should I go to school for music, I usually tell them no. I say go to school for something that has like a super high job prospect that'll pay you really great money that you're also passionate with, and then do all the music stuff outside of that, and that way you'll always have a stable gig that you can fall back on. But then again, um, going to music school can be incredibly fun. It can push your music abilities farther than it'll ever be, because some people aren't self learners. They need that program or curriculum, and there's still a lot of things you're not going to learn online, right? Just having infrastructure. So, I don't know, what's your opinion on the music school thing? Because a lot of people ask me that.
Okay, that's actually a really great question. And honestly, it depends. When my own students say they don't want to be a music major, they want to go into something else, I'm like, great, do it. When my students are on the fence, my question to them is, how much do you really love it? How much do you really love it? Because being a professional musician is one of the most difficult jobs in the world. It's filled with
Yeah,
rejection, it's filled with low pay. You're constantly having to get out there and promote yourself. So you need to know that going into it. I don't want people to be, I don't want to use the word tricked, but I was greatly influenced with this romanticized version of what it was to be a professional musician that just wasn't true. I will say,
yeah,
obviously, if you're going to go into music education, you have to go to music school. If you want to be a music teacher in the schools, you have to go to music school. If and
yeah,
if you want to get into a big orchestra, I would focus on studying with great teachers. They can teach you what you need to perform because it's not on your resume whether or not you went to Juilliard or community college. It's how well you play your instrument. Um,
Right.
but as far as music school is concerned, I think music schools are doing a better job at trying to include entrepreneurship in their curriculum. But the problem is the people who are teaching it have never really been entrepreneurs.
Mm, that's a
So
good point.
how can you how can you truly teach something other than just reading a book? It's not the real life situation.
Yeah.
Very seldom do things follow the book. So I think music schools are trying, but I think they're also not necessary. And if you do end up in music school, make sure you do something like a minor in business or a minor in entrepreneurship so that you get the skills you need, or you can seek out mentors like me and like you who can help people better market their skills.
Right. Yeah. The entrepreneur thing is tough because I feel like the only way you learn it is by doing it and failing a lot. So teaching that is hard, right? But um, I guess, I mean, that's the professor's job to figure it out, right? How to teach it effectively, or bring in outside people and have them teach it. There's like a lot of times the professors at schools, they went to school to become a professor, so they get their PhD and then they become like an adjunct, and then eventually they get promoted to whatever, or yada yada yada. So they never had like real world experience. But I when I was in school, I went to school for mechanical engineering, so completely different. But we had some grad school classes that were taught by people working at companies. So like there'd be a professor who at night he was a professor, but by day he was designing like missile systems for a defense company, right? And so that, like, they could have a lot of that, bring in people like me. Maybe not. I mean, I don't want to teach a night class. So, but like, if bring in someone who wants to come and do like a 2 hour guest lecture and talk about what they've done, how they got there, ask questions and answer it, because like, I feel like that real world experience is so invaluable. Or you, right? Like you're kind of in a perfect scenario because you're an entrepreneur and a professor. Obviously, you're doing it part time now, but like you've had to figure out the SEO thing. You've had to make blogs. You've had to fail a ton. You figured out like how do you make money? How do you sell offers? How do you approach people? Um, so the world needs more people like you, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, we're out there. And how did I learn all this stuff? Okay, some of it I learned on my own by figuring it out, and some of it I learned because I invested in mentors. And I think that's something else that musicians aren't willing to do a lot of times. I am in a
Yeah.
mastermind group. Not everyone in there is a musician, but a lot of us are. And someone was struggling with how to market her membership, and she runs a great membership, and for musicians, helping them figure out how to tour and stuff.
Mm.
And she was struggling with getting people in, and she's like, people just can't afford it. And another girl in the mastermind who's a bassoonist in the Symphony of Mexico, she goes, but can they though? Can they really not afford it? Because I bet they can afford, $400 to take a private lesson with a famous teacher. I bet that they can afford to travel to auditions. I bet they can afford new equipment upgrades all the time. And it's
Yeah.
just, musicians need to understand the value of investing in mentors and
Yeah.
education, because it takes all of those failures and cuts the amount you have to go through in half, because you're learning from somebody who's already failed for you.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I have some people that I pay for mentorship periodically too. I also have a lot of people that are originally they were kind of mentors and now they're kind of like peers, and we tag up every so often and we kind of vent to each other about problems, or we exchange kind of ideas and stuff, and that's also super valuable. But that mentorship thing is huge, and sometimes you can't afford it, but if you look at what you're buying music gear wise, if you're like, well, do I need a $3,000 guitar and a $2,500 Axe effects for processing that guitar? Maybe you do, but maybe it would make more sense to buy a $1,000 guitar and a $1,000 effects processing unit, and now you have a few $1,000 to save yourself a lot of failures and learn something and push something in a new direction. So I'm a huge fan of finding an expert and kind of fast tracking success that way.
Oh, absolutely. When I started working with a mentor, my business blew up. Like
Yeah.
it paid for itself in dividends. And it's gotten to the point now where I'm having to outsource. I have a video editor. I'm going to be hiring an assistant soon. So
Nice.
it's a good thing. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah. Now, so you own a studio, and I wasn't sure when I read this, but it sounds like from your description, this is basically it's just, you have students that you teach in
Yes.
person, or maybe also online.
Yes,
You,
I have a private music studio, and this is the room where I teach music lessons at my home. I also teach students online, and I also go into the schools as part of that. But my music studio is a collection of, in the school year, about 58 music students that I see every week and work with.
how do you kickstart that? Like, how do you start getting your first students, and how do you get the ball rolling with that?
Okay, that's a great question. And shameless plug, I also have a course for that. Um, that did pretty well during COVID when people were starting out. But
Yeah.
number one thing you need to do is you need to do networking. And you need to do it in a way that is non confrontational. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, if say you're new to an area or you want to start teaching music lessons, the first thing you want to do is find the other people who do what you do in the area. But when you go to them and approach them because you want to start teaching, they instantly see you as competition and back away. Like, no, no, no. And what we need
Yeah.
to understand and learn is there are plenty of students out there to go around. So the easiest way to approach people, take them out for coffee. Hey, I'm another flute teacher in the area and I would love to take you out for coffee and chat. No musician is going to turn down free coffee. Just not going to happen. And then as you start chatting, that's when you just approach it in a way, I'm new to the area. I would love to pick up some students. If you ever have any overflow, or if you hear of someone looking and you can't take them, I would love it if you would give them my name. Approach it from that area, because then that gives them that comfort of, oh, this person's not trying to steal my income. And
Right.
it makes them value you. Another way to do it is to let them know what you bring to the table. So, say you teach trumpet, like you're a trumpet player and you teach trumpet lessons on the side. That's when you approach the band directors in the area, and
Mm.
you're like, hey, I'm a trumpet player. I play with this band. I do this, and I was wondering, do you have a need for anyone to come in and give a master class to your trumpet students on tone development? And a band director is going to be like, yes, please, absolutely. So
Yeah.
in an ideal world, you'll get paid for that. But even if you go in and you do it for no pay, which sometimes happens,
Yeah.
but in an ideal world, they make them back. How much would you charge? Well, what's your budget? Go that route. But even if you go in and do it for free, you get in front of those students. Then as you're talking to the students, you're like, you know how much fun we've had in this masterclass today? We can do this every single week. I teach private lessons. You can get signed up. And you just have to get your face there. You have to get in
Yeah.
front of the students. You have to get them to understand the value.
Right. Yeah, that was actually a completely different answer than what I was expecting, but that all sounds brilliant. Like going to a band director, obviously it's going to be different if it's guitar versus a orchestral instrument and all that. But taking out another person as lessons, and taking them out for a coffee, networking, meeting them over, like, because people get booked all the time, and they feel awful having to tell their like a new student, like, oh yeah, we can start lessons in 6 months, right? Like that, you kind of feel like crap. I have this all the time, but it's nice to know, like, having a person you can send them to that you trust or know is going to treat them right. Because that makes you look good, right? If you can help a person out and refer them to someone, that also makes you look good as the teacher. Where can people find you, and what do you got to offer? I saw that we actually have, I think, a freebie. Let me pull it up so I can get the name right. 5 days to ranking on Google challenge.
Yes. So this is
Um,
actually a challenge that I ran earlier this year and I charge for it. But for your audience, I'm going to give it to you for free.
hey. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Your audience can have it for free. Full disclosure, it will put you on my email list. We talked about the importance of having an email list, and I value that as well. And I'm very transparent about it, frankly, because I'm
Yeah.
here to teach business, and that's just good business. You can also find my website, tonyalawson.com. That's Tonya. And I'm on Instagram at dr.tonyalawson, Dr. Tonya Lawson. And that is also my handle on TikTok as well as YouTube.
Nice. So yeah, I'll have a link in the description for the 5 days to rank on Google challenge as well as your website, so you can check it out. Honestly, I'm interested in seeing what this challenge is too, because I'm already ranking on Google, so see how I can rank even better on Google. But yeah, for real,
Absolutely.
the SEO thing, not only does it provide immense value for like your website, it learning about it will help you understand how social media works as well.
Oh,
Because
100%. And that's more important than ever now with all the changes Google's making. I run a membership that stays on top of that and is constantly updating. I just did a
yeah,
class in that membership on holistic SEO because that's kind of the new way we're going.
yeah. So learning it's super. Even if you're like, I don't want to do a blog, doesn't sound like me. Like learning about SEO still a super valuable skill because like that's really all I do on YouTube. When I title and make a thumbnail for a video, I'm essentially doing SEO on YouTube. And when
Absolutely.
you're making a TikTok post, like the way you title things, the words you say, it's really at the end of the day SEO in a nutshell, just a more complicated version of SEO. So yeah. Anyways, Tanya, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was fun.